Hey, this is Mike of Boy Meets Robot, and I'm talking today about my approach for programming percussion sounds in the noise channel in LSDJ. I've been thinking about doing a series of videos looking at the LSDJ saves for tracks on the album I have coming out soon, but I realized they all use a lot of the same noise channel instruments. So I thought if I just do one video at the beginning, kind of laying all those out, I don't have to mention them again in each walkthrough. Also, if you're anything like me, the noise channel is probably pretty baffling to you starting out, and it's one area where the LSDJ manual is just not very helpful. So I thought I'd start just by kind of giving a little description of what the noise channel actually does, and then get into how LSDJ controls the channel. I should say to start out with, I'm going to assume you have a little bit of familiarity already with using LSDJ and how to navigate it and create instruments and things like that. If not, I would stop here and go watch some tutorials of the real basics, and then come back and join us. All right, so the noise channel uses a linear feedback shift register to create 1-bit pseudo-random noise. So what that means is you can picture the wave it creates as being like a series of pulse waves, all that have random width. And it has two modes, a 7-bit mode that creates a wave that is 127 samples long, and then a 15-bit mode that is 32,000 something samples long. The 7-bit mode, which I'll call the short noise mode, that's the one that creates the kind of metallic buzzing sound. These kind of sounds is the short noise mode. And then the 15-bit creates the more just white noise kind of sounds, like and if you think about it, it makes sense because the shorter waveform is going to be repeating more frequently, so it actually has a frequency that our ears perceive as a pitch, whereas the longer waveform, even if you turn it up to the highest frequencies, it still isn't cycling fast enough for our ears to hear it as a definite pitch. Okay, so what does that mean in how does the LSDJ control that? Well, first thing I should note is that the pitch that you enter on the noise channel, the pitch doesn't actually do anything to change the note. So if we listen here, you can hear as I change the pitch, the note doesn't change. The only thing that affects the note is what octave you enter. So if I change octaves, you can hear the noise frequency going up and down by octaves. And I'm using the short noise because it's a little easier to hear the different pitches and how they change, but it works the same way with the long noise form. If we go into the instrument settings, the first digit of the shape parameter has the same effect. So if I change this shape, you'll hear it changing by octaves. Now it doesn't change unlimited. There's a limit to how high and how low you can push it. I'm not sure exactly how many different octaves you can put that through, but that's what the first digit of the shape does. So that one's pretty easy to understand. The second digit is where it gets a little confusing. So the first thing because the second digit actually controls two different things. It controls first whether you're using the short noise or the long noise mode. So if the second digit is set through 0 through 7, that's going to give you the short noise, the kind of buzzy sound. And then if it's set to 8 through F, it's going to give you the longer noise, the more white noise kind of sound. One thing you'll notice with the long noise sounds is just the way the Game Boy hardware works. Every time the note is triggered, you'll hear just like a little bit of a noise that has more of a definite pitch to it. And this is just the nature of the Game Boy hardware. So if we listen to that, right, each time that note is triggered, you hear you hear like a little noise at the beginning of it. That's one way you can tell the difference between Game Boy noise channel and the Famicom NES noise channels. The Famicom is a little cleaner; it doesn't have that sound, I believe. So, that's kind of one characteristic that you'll be able to recognize of the Game Boy. Okay, so that's the first thing that the shape parameter does, is switch between those two modes. But you also heard, that as you change the second digit, it goes through different pitches, different frequencies. And what that is controlling what's called a divisor code, which takes the noise wave and it multiplies or divides the frequency by a certain number, and that's going to give you different pitches. So if I set it to 6, that in the Game Boy is a divisor code of 1. It just multiplies the frequency by 1. And that note is roughly a C. Right? If I set to 7, now it's going to multiply the frequency by 2. We're going to get an octave higher. So C an octave higher. If I set it to 5, now it's going to divide by 2. So we'll get a C an octave lower. If I set it to 4, it's going to divide. The divisor code is now 3. It's going to divide the frequency by 3. So we're going to get an octave and a fifth lower, which gives us an F. If we set the second digit to 3, now the divisor code, it's going to divide the frequency by 4, which will give us a C 2 octaves lower. And you can kind of see where this is going. Set the second digit to 2. Now the divisor code is 5. We're going to divide the frequency by 5, which gives us 2 octaves and a third lower, which is about an A flat. And then down to 1. Now we're dividing by 6, so we're going down an octave and 2 octaves and a fifth, which gives us an F. And then lastly, divided by 7. Yes, dividing by 7 gives us 2 octaves and about a minor seventh lower, which will give us a kind of out of tune D. So if we go through all those different pitches together, we've got D, F, A flat, C, F, C, C, and C. So you can think of it as like a, again, these aren't very well in tune, but like a D minor 7 flat 5. D, F, A flat, C, F, C, C, C. So if that helps you remember it, that those are kind of the order of the pitches. And it's the same relationship with the long the long noise mode. You just don't hear definite pitches. So if I say the equivalent pitches from the short noise, it would be, I'll take it down a couple octaves. So you would have D, F, A flat, C, F, C, C, C. So, and those aren't the actual pitches, because there aren't any pitches there, but those are kind of the relationships between them. Okay, so right off the bat, one thing that we can do with this, if you want a noise channel instrument that smoothly sweeps through all the available frequencies, I'm only going to use the first 4 numbers in that second digit. So I'm only going to use 0, 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to create a table and use the S command. All right, so on the first note, we're starting out, that second digit is at 0. So after S0, 1, now we're at 1. Do it again, now we're at 2. Now we're at 3. So sweeping up, 0, 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to set the groove to 0, the standard groove of 6, so you can hear that a little more slowly. So that'll go like this. So you get that kind of smooth slide through those pitches. And then what I'm going to do is do another S command, but I'm going to start with a 1, so that just takes it up an octave. So if here we had D, F, A flat, C. Now the 1, I'm going to bring that up an octave, and then the second digit I'm going to set to D. So so basically our shape parameter starts at A0, A1, A2, A3, and then after step 4 here, now we're at B0. And we're going to just copy this. So B0, B1, B2, B3, and then we'll just copy it again. Now we're at C0, C1, C2, C3, and we can even just put an H command so I don't have to keep copying this. We'll just hop right back to step 8. And you can hear now this instrument is just going to sweep through all of the available pitches on the noise channel. In fact, let's start this even lower so you can hear the real cool effect. So that's a good thing to remember, and we'll come back to that when I start talking about some of the instruments. When you want to have a smooth sweep through all the different frequencies, and we can do the same thing with the long noise mode. If I just change that to 0.8, now we get this sound. Sweeping through all those frequencies. And of course, if you change the groove, if I just get rid of this, so now we have just one tick for each step. Now you're going to hear, a much faster sweep. Okay, so that's the basics of how a noise channel is going to work. Let's talk about how we create some different instruments. So first, I want to start with just a basic hi-hat sound. Set envelope to 7/1. We want a fast decay, and then for shape, I set it to BF. We want to use that long long noise form, so we get the more white noise sound, and that gives us this. Right, pretty good. And I should say, setting the shape to BF, would be also the same thing as setting it to EB. If we walk through that, so I'm going to take it up. So we're at BF. We're going to take it up 3 octaves, 1, 2, 3, and then down an octave, down another octave, down a fifth, and now down a full octave after that. So those are actually just equivalent sounds. So I'll just leave it at that. And one thing that I really learned from looking at a lot of saves, especially Dan Mulcannon's LSDJ saves, is he never has 2 notes played with the same volume, because a real live drummer would never play every note exactly the same way. So I'll add some E commands here just to liven it up. And sometimes I'll even take some of these down an octave. You can add, if you want kind of an open hi-hat sound, that let's change the second digit of the E command to 2, so it's a little longer. Let's see, I'll bring this tone down again. Something like that. Anyway, just to make it a little more interesting. All right, so that's kind of the easiest one, the hi-hat sound. Let's do some other cymbal sounds. So let's say you want like a more of a ride cymbal. That's the sound I sometimes use for a ride. So first for the envelope, I'm going to use set the second digit to 2, so we get a little longer note, longer decay. Shape to EB, which is the same as for the hi-hat. But now I'm going to add this table. And if you remember from a minute ago, I talked about how you sweep smoothly through the noise channel frequencies. You can see our shape is starting at EB. So if I follow this table now, it's EA, E9, E8, which is the 8 is the lowest of the settings for the long noise channel. Then here we go to we go to D. Now I got myself confused. DB, DA, D9, D8, and then to CB, and then I just have it stop there. It doesn't. We don't add the H command to keep cycling through. And the H command at the bottom just stops it from just repeating the whole table again. So we're just sweeping through part of the frequency range for this ride cymbal. All right, and if we want something more dramatic for a crash cymbal, I'm going to do an envelope starting F2, so a little louder start. Same starting shape, EB, but now for the table, I'm going to just do start out the same way. So we're at shape EB, and we go to EA, E9, E8, then to DB. But here I just do an H command just to hop back up to step 1, and it's just going to keep repeating that. So it goes down all the way through all of the possible frequencies. So we get a much more dramatic sweep. Also, this little O command just gives a little pop at the beginning of the note, where you're hearing just the right channel for a tick, and then both channels. So if we listen. All right, so that's my crash cymbal sound. All right, so then for a snare, if the cymbals, are pitching down, the snare, we kind of want the opposite. We want to hear low frequency on the attack, and then as it's decaying, and in a real snare drum, the snare is muting the lower frequencies. We want to hear just the higher frequencies. So we use that kind of sweep up sound. So in this one, I'm going to start at shape BA, and instead of that really smooth sweep where we go through every frequency, here I just go through all of the different divisor codes. So starting at shape BA, now going BA, B9, BA, BB, BC, BD, BE, BF, and then killing the note after that. And I think I like that because you get, if we were to do that same table where it just smoothly sweeps through everything, it ends up being just a little too long of a tail. So that's kind of what we have for the snare drum. One thing I should note is when you're at different tempos, you need to kind of change this a little bit. So at a slower tempo, let me just slow us down here a bunch. Now this snare drum is going to sound a little too long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kill it earlier, and I'm just going to have the second step now move 2 steps at once. And if we want an even slower tempo, I can do that do that again. So we'll kill it here and do that. So we get the same kind of, or maybe I want to do this. We get the same length and rough overall the same shape, just without without getting too long at that slower tempo. All right, so let me just change this back. Okay, and then last sound I don't use kick sounds in the noise channel very often. I just think they sound better on the pulse channel. But sometimes if you need one, I do something like this. So envelope F1 because we want that fast decay. Shape, we're using the short noise form now. Starting at shape of 9-1. And you can see this table starting at 9-1, 9-0, then going to 8-3, 8-2, 8-1, 8-0, then to 7-3, and then we hop back up here, so it'll keep going 7-2, 7-1, 7-0, 6-3, 6-2, 6-1, 6-0, and so on down through all of the pitches. And you can see I use the O command there to give you that little blip at the front. And I don't think I mentioned it, but that's on the snare drum as well. So I don't think quite as strong as, you know, a wave channel kick can get, but the same kind of idea with that, you know, the descending pitch that you would have on a wave channel kick. So those are the basic instruments I use, and I thought maybe I'd just you know, give you a little example drum beat here using all these different sounds. So let's let's go here. I want hi-hat. Let's start with crash. Oop, and add some hi-hats. Oh no, we want snare. Okay, there we go. And snare. All right, let's add some shaping to this. All right, let's add another phrase to that. Just copy this again. Let's mix it up a little bit. Add some more hi-hat. I like to use the R command with hi-hats. All right, so let's hear those two together. All right, so let's clone this phrase. Maybe I'll add a little snare thing here. All right, so let's hear that all together. All right, cool. Let's do something with the kick drum. Oops. Yeah, new phrase. And let's use that ride cymbal too. We should start this one with a crash. How about that? No, maybe I like the kick better. And let's copy that and clone it. And we'll just add a little snare fill or something. Okay. Add some shaping here. And we'll just end with a crash. All right, let's listen to all that. All right, so there you go. Hopefully that gave you some ideas. I know there's lots of different ways to do snare sounds and cymbal sounds. I'm not saying that these are, the only way to do it. These are just, mostly what I use in my programming. And the other thing I should say is if you look at some of the saved files from the album, which I'm hoping to release along with the Bandcamp download. A lot of them I programmed before. I figured out a lot of these things with the sweep commands, and I was using the transpose commands more in the tables. So it might look a little different, but it kind of does the same thing. So hopefully that helps you out, and thanks for watching.